This is the only advice you need with business success speaker, Matt Hyams.
Today we're talking about building a positive remote culture. We're going to get into vulnerability, using the red light district in Amsterdam as a way to signal when you're available, and sexual fluidity.
All right, let's do this.
How do you build culture on a remote team? Well, you have to make everyone feel like they're part of an organic whole. You don't want people feeling like they're just slivers, that they're just slivers floating in a river, slivers in a river, going to some fiery pit of hell. No, you have to make them feel like they're floating down a river together into a heavenly cloud of beauty. And culture starts with leadership, because the leadership team has to ask themselves, what are our values? Do you kick people's seats in movie theaters? Or do you believe in integrity and honesty? Or do you lie? If you're lying a lot, that will come through the computer screen virtually. People can feel the lies virtually. Virtual Lies, which also happens to be the name of a band I was in my younger days. We were called Virtual Lies. But that's not going to help your leadership or your remote team or our music or our extensive Japanese fan base. Once you figure out your culture, what your values are, the next step is getting everyone to show up on the Zoom or the Slack or the Google Meet or whatever. People have to show up or there won't be a culture. They have to get online. You got to get on it, even if they don't want to. Some people think they don't have to, but they do. Some people might be like, well, I'm having a hard time managing all of my home-related duties with my family and my home life, with my job life, because I'm at home and there's no separation between office and house. And I say to them, look, we're building positive remote company culture. You get on that Zoom or you won't have a home. Make those threats. If people aren't willing to build a positive remote company culture with you, well, then these really aren't people that you want. And that's the first thing, is to make sure that the people who are working for you are willing to be part of a positive remote company culture. I had some people once who weren't willing to be part of a positive remote company culture, and I had to say, look, you're either part of this positive remote company culture or you're out of here. I'm not going to sit around here and wait for people to decide whether they want to be part of my positive remote company culture or not. This is a group effort. Get on the Zoom. And if you don't like it, then I'll build the positive remote company culture myself, and we'll see how everyone likes it when I'm the only one building the positive remote company culture. You won't like the culture I build by myself, because I got a lot of ideas. So get on the Zoom. And it's crucial that you build psychological safety, which is making sure that everyone feels comfortable speaking up. They feel like they have a seat at the table. They feel like it's safe to say things, and that it's a comfortable environment to make mistakes. And I would tell people in our virtual meetings, I want to hear from everyone in this meeting. Everyone has to say something, say anything. And when people said to me, I have nothing to add, I liked all the things that were said already. I said, you're about 2 steps away from getting kicked out of here. They said, kicked out of where? I'm in my home. I said, I will log you off so fast, it'll make your head spin. And then they logged themselves off and they quit. But they weren't a good fit for my positive remote company culture anyway. So I didn't mind. But that is the problem, is that people can log themselves off. And in my first attempts at building positive remote company culture, when we all got on the Zoom and I said, I'm so excited to start building this company culture with you all. And slowly they all started disabling their video and then their audio. And then they were gone completely. And that's not a good sign when that happens. If people start logging off during your meetings and the meeting's not over, and if in fact it's just begun, you're only 5 seconds into it, you've got a company culture problem. So fine, I learned my lesson that time. And what I did was I bought everyone a laptop, and everyone was so excited to have a free laptop. But what they didn't know is that I wasn't gonna go through with that again. Everyone log off on me. So I installed a plugin on these laptops that allowed me to disable their video and their audio, but not them. And I could prevent them from logging off. So that's something else you can do, because you want to make sure that if you're building positive remote company culture, that you've got everyone's attention. You don't need people logging off on their own or doing God knows what, okay? And then I had to get creative. So I started thinking about culture. I wanted to build a culture club. And then the light bulb went off. Of course, I said, the culture club. How could I miss this? So I had everyone listen to the culture club because I wanted to get into that company culture vibe. I told everyone, I want everyone to listen to the culture club, okay? Because Boy George, the singer of the culture club, he had a lot of looks, and I think he slides all over the sexuality spectrum. And I like that. So I said, the first thing we've got to do is take a page out of Culture Club's book and let's blur the lines a little bit with our sexuality. And as we blur the lines with our sexuality, we will start to open up and we'll start to bond that way. And the door for new ideas will open, and that'll help us beat the status quo. So let's keep our curiosity alive. Now, some people said, I already know what I am. I know I'm gay. I know I'm straight. I know I'm non-binary. I don't need to blur the lines of my sexuality. I know where I stand. I have a spouse. I have children. And I said, you're closed-minded. And then I disabled their video. So anyone who told me that they weren't willing to sort of blur the lines on their sexuality, taking a page out of Boy George's book, I would disable their video and their audio so no one could see or hear them. And once we were able to blur the lines of our sexuality, well, the culture just started thriving because everyone felt very open. And those people who initially told me that, oh, I know who I am, I don't need to blur the lines, well, they ended up going home to their spouses and saying, I don't know what I am anymore. Work has changed me. I'm fluid now. However, I just came up with an idea to raise the company's margins by 25% because of my sexual fluidity. What's for dinner? And the spouses were so happy that they didn't care. Another way to build culture on your remote team is to know what's going on in everyone's lives. That way, everyone can respect each other so they don't step on each other's toes scheduling-wise. This way, you can avoid saying, hey, I need you to meet me in 5 minutes online, and the other person's like, I can't meet you in 5 minutes, I'm masturbating right now. Or, my wife's masturbating, and I watch her. Or whatever the case may be. Because that was something that was a big problem when my company first went remote, was that when we first went virtual, everyone's wives were masturbating at the same time because their moons were synced up. And all the husbands were saying, I can't meet with you right now. I am participating in a voyeuristic role-playing situation. And I said, look, that's fine. I'm the one who created sexual fluidity here. I want you to have your space. We're all remote now. Just get your work done. I don't care when it happens. It can happen at 3 o'clock in the morning. It can happen at 12 in the afternoon. Whatever you need. And everyone needs their own system as well to help manage their time and create a separation between work and home. Because the lines between work and home are going to get blurred as your sexuality gets blurred. So what I did for myself is I put little lights on my Zoom. Red light would mean I'm busy. Purple light would mean that I'm transitioning. Because in purple light in Amsterdam, in the red light district, it means that there's a trans prostitute in there. So I use the same light system that the red light district in Amsterdam uses. I don't mean that metaphorically either. I mean that literally. Red light means I'm having straight heterosexual sex at that time. Purple light would mean I'm having some kind of sex with a transsexual. I either have a trans woman or I have a trans man in there. One of them is happening in my office. Now, if I have a white light on, that means no sex is happening and you can contact me at that time. But you also need a blue light to say, okay, I'm not having any kind of sex, neither with a transsexual or a straight person. It means it's dusk and I've signed off for the night. Now, sometimes that blue light will switch to purple in the middle of the night depending on who's over. But if you are going to do the purple light and the red light district system, make sure that you are having sex with a trans person when that purple light is on. If you're not having sex with a trans person, but you're using the purple light, that's offensive to the trans community. So don't use that light if you're not serious about it. But you can still use the red light district system. So I recommend getting a project management system that tells everyone what everyone's doing at any given time, so they know when people are available. And that helps builds respect. Now, I have my own light system, but company-wide, we have a mutual spreadsheet that has everyone's schedule for the day. And that way I know when people are showering, when they're going to the bathroom, when they're taking their kids to school, or they're at the playground. But if they don't fill those spots in, then you have to go to their town or their home and you have to see what they're really doing, and then you fill in the slot. So I ended up filling the slots in for people when I started spying on them and I'd know what they were doing. And they were like, well, I didn't fill that in. I didn't fill that slot in and saying that I was at the cafe at that moment. How did anyone else know? I said, well, we know what you're doing, even if you don't tell us. Those slots on that spreadsheet have to be filled in because once a slot is open on the spreadsheet, I can't relax until I see it filled in. I need to see the slots filled in. So as soon as I create a field and a column, I have to fill it in. If I create a column and a row on a Google spreadsheet and you don't fill it in, I'm going to fill it in for you. And you're probably not going to like what I write because I'm going to know what you're doing. So my suggestion is to my team, you fill it in and be honest because we're talking about transparency here, people. And, have fun with it. One way we used to build culture before we went remote was we'd go out for happy hour drinks. Okay, but now you're remote, so you can't go meet up anymore. So what do? Well, you can meet up, have virtual happy hour. You have drinks separately on your virtual happy hours. Now, some people might be alcoholics. They may not be able to drink, but that doesn't mean they can't show up. I mean, I had one guy on my team say to me, look, I'm uncomfortable. I'm trying not to drink. And he had only had a few weeks under his belt at that point. I said, look, we're building positive remote company culture here. If you don't want to drink, don't drink. But at the very least, watch us drink. That can be the way that you participate. And he said to me, but watching other people drink makes me want to drink. I said, I'm not here to solve all of your problems. I'm here to build positive remote company culture and lead this company to extreme profit and success, as I've done. Your job is to help me with the company culture and to do your part. Now watch us drink or find your culture somewhere else. I like to give people those outs because not every company culture is right for everyone. But this guy did need the job because he needed money. He had a family to support, and he said, fine, I will watch you drink, but I don't feel comfortable with it. I said, I appreciate you at least making the effort. And a funny thing happened after that virtual happy hour that he joined us and did watch us drink. Turns out he did want to drink after all, and he joined the fun. Now his home culture started to fall apart, but his company culture contribution was thriving. And after that one, he started promoting virtual happy hours all over the place, scheduling them every day. Sometimes he was the only one on the virtual happy hour Zoom meeting. He would tell everyone, join if you want, no biggie, I'll just be here by myself. And a couple times when we would log on, we would see him passed out. His head would be back over the chair. He's snoring, his flies open, dong out, and a piece of pizza on his lap. And clearly he had some plans he didn't finish. But that's the commitment that I want to see. Now, other CEOs would ask me at the time, that didn't bother you? That, he was clearly masturbating? I said, look, people are going to masturbate while you're having your virtual meetings. That's just a fact of life. And if you're not prepared to accept that, then you're not ready for a positive remote culture. If people are going to masturbate, I say let them. That creates employee engagement because now I can say, okay, Tom, you're sad and lonely and you're masturbating 12 times a day. Now I understand what makes a meaningful work-life balance for you. And I can put that into their benefits package. I can get creative. You can also do fun virtual games with people, like the game Tell Me a Secret. That's one we play a lot. Tell me something nobody knows about you and really push them. If they say, oh, I like romantic comedies, I'm like, well, that's nice, but it's not really what I'm looking for. So I said, tell me something that your spouse doesn't know about you. And then I'd look at them dead in the eye, up close. And I'd put their face up center screen on the Zoom meeting, and then we'd all be looking at them. And then we'd all have to go around and say something that no one else knows, which became the new name of the game. I didn't like Tell Me a Secret. I said, let's change this name to Nobody Knows. And I'd warn them, and I'd say, if this isn't vulnerable, then you're gonna have to dig deeper and find something vulnerable. Because I need people to be vulnerable for that psychological safety. I'm trying to make people feel safe with vulnerability here. But as the leader, you have to go first to create that comfort. So I said, I'll go first. I said, nobody knows what I ate last night. And people were like, well, how is that vulnerable? That's not edgy or dark or anything. I said, well, it would be if you knew what I ate. And they said, well, wasn't it food? And I said, it became food when I found it, when I was driving. It became food real fast. And I just let that hang for a little while. I was willing to show them that I could be vulnerable too. So we all went around the room and we played a game of Nobody Knows. And I recorded it. So I have that recording now, and I can use that to build more culture, particularly when people say, I don't want to build culture anymore or be in this company. I can show them the tape. And then when we'd have virtual Christmas parties, I'll replay these Nobody Knows recordings and we'll say, oh my God, remember this? Remember how fun this was? Remember when Heather said she killed her boyfriend's dog and told him it ran away? So these are just a few tips to get company culture going right away on your remote teams. And most importantly, just have fun with it because that's going to come through. All right. See you next week.